Day 101. 1 Samuel chapter 13 and 14. Welcome as we encounter a nation under pressure, a king losing control and a young man who chooses courage over fear. This is not just about war, it is a story about waiting, trust, fear, leadership, and bold faith. The Israelites were in trouble. The enemy was overwhelming. Fear spread quickly. Scripture tells us they hid in caves, thickets, rocks, pits and cisterns. These were not weak people. They were simply overwhelmed people. Fear can make strong people disappear. In today's world, caves may not be physical, but they may look like any of these. Avoidance, silence, giving up too early, isolating yourself when things get hard. When pressure rises, the real battle is not outside. It is within your mind and your faith. Then we get to Saul, who was given clear instructions. Wait for the prophet. 7 days. That was the timeline. But as the days passed, his men began to scatter. So Saul panicked. He stepped into a role that wasn't his, and offered the sacrifice himself. Impatience can push you into disobedience. How often do we do this? God said wait, but we rush. God said trust, but we take control. God gave instructions, but pressure rewrites them. Saul didn't lose because he lacked opportunity. He lost because he could not wait under pressure. The situation became even more critical. There were no blacksmiths in Israel. The enemy had made sure of that. The Israelites had to go to their enemies just to sharpen their tools. And when battle came, only Saul and Jonathan had swords. You can still win, even when you lack resources. This is powerful. Imagine going into battle with no tools, no equipment, no advantage. That's like starting a business without enough funds, leading a school without enough staff or systems, raising a family without all the answers. You may not have everything, but you still have God. Now we meet Jonathan. While others were hiding, while Saul was hesitating, Jonathan said something remarkable. Perhaps the Lord will act on our behalf. Nothing can hinder the Lord from saving, whether by many or by few. Then he climbed on his hands and feet toward the enemy. Faith doesn't wait for perfect conditions. Jonathan did not have a large army, a guaranteed outcome, a strategic advantage. He only had faith, courage, and one loyal companion. And that was enough. Sometimes your breakthrough begins with perhaps a step taken in uncertainty, but rooted in trust. As Jonathan fought, something unusual happened. Chaos broke out in the enemy camp. Confusion spread. Fear turned against them. Meanwhile, Saul was still talking to the priest. But the noise of victory grew louder. God can fight for you while you are still figuring things out. This is deep. Before Saul could organize anything, God had already started moving. Sometimes you are still praying, still planning, still doubting, but God is already working behind the scenes. Then something unexpected happened. Those who had previously aligned with the enemy switched sides and joined Israel. Victory can attract alignment. People watch your consistency, your courage, your faith. And when they see God moving, they come back. This ought to teach us not to focus on who left. Instead, focus on what God is doing now. After all this, Saul finally built an altar. But the Bible notes something striking. It was the first time he had done this. Don't make God your last option. Saul remembered God, but late. Sometimes we plan first, panic next, and pray last. But true strength comes when God is not an emergency contact, but your starting point. Saul made another critical error. He made a rash vow that almost cost Jonathan his life. The very person God used to bring victory was nearly destroyed by poor leadership. But the people intervened and saved Jonathan. Not every authority decision is wise. This is an important whisper for leaders such as parents, school owners, managers, political or spiritual leaders. Leadership requires discernment, humility, listening, because one wrong decision can harm the very people bringing progress. Today, we end with a simple but powerful note. Saul recruited every strong and brave man he saw. Surround yourself with strength. Your environment matters. Who you bring into your circle will determine your growth, your results, your stability. Be intentional about the people you keep close. I hope today you are reminded that life will bring pressure. Resources may be limited, people may scatter, leaders may falter. But in the middle of it all, God is still looking for someone like Jonathan, someone willing to say, perhaps the Lord will act, and take a step forward anyway. If you are in a season where things feel tight, answers seem delayed, fear is rising, listen carefully. God does not need perfect conditions to show his power. He only needs a willing heart and a step of faith.